Our first panelist is Robert Boone. Robert has over 23 years of experience in the IT field, working in various industries. He served as the Director of IT at Aspire Financial for 4 years. During his 11-year tenure at Palm Harbor Homes, he was responsible for managing a large IT and computer network across 180 office and manufacturer plant locations. In 2016, he joined DECA Dental Group and was appointed as the CIO in March 2018. And a side note, which is pretty cool, his first cousin's son is Benson Boone. Anybody know who that guy is?
Yeah.
All right, now, come on. Degrees of separation.
I love it.
I can't sing like him. So.
Neither can I, but we can try.
That's
right?
true.
Welcome, welcome. Our next panelist is Liz Duncan. Liz is a skilled technology leader with a law degree specializing in security, privacy, and compliance. She has successfully led organizations through multiple security and privacy certification audits and assessments. Liz has assisted several organizations in obtaining a Clean SOC 2 attestation within 6 months.
Wow.
She currently serves as the Director of Cybersecurity and Compliance at Planet DDS. Welcome. Next, and last but not least, is Brian Mullenix, who is the Vice President of IT at Riccoboni Associates Family Dentistry. Before joining Riccoboni Associates, he spent 15 years at CVS Aetna, specializing in the implementation of new technologies and user access management. In his role at Riccoboni, he has led several security initiatives aimed at enhancing the organization's security. So welcome. Awesome. So how are we this morning?
Good.
Ready to have a great conversation?
Yes.
Come on now. My first question, Robert, is to you. And what are some practical steps that a DSO can take to implement, thorough inventory management and proactively address cybersecurity risks in alignment with the NIST framework?
Okay, so that's part of the identity part of the framework. So, it's very important to know what you have out there, know your assets, get a good inventory system, some type of asset tracking system, vulnerability management system as well, so you know what's on your network, not just the computers and the servers that you put on there, but what everybody else brings as well. Very important, also very important to segment your data in terms of your internal assets and your external assets, such as guest Wi-Fi, because patients coming in the office that, they'll get in there, most of those offices are like 10 boxes. You can't get cell signal if you want to give them some access, so make sure your guest Wi-Fi is segmented in that way. Also, make sure that have a good patching plan, a good patching solution for your systems. Make sure it is it's a written down solution that you have and that you can reference it frequently to keep you up to speed on your patching. Penetration tests, that's in both internal and external. I know they recommend internal at least once a year. External a lot more often. I mean, we do it probably every few weeks. Our PE firm, they have a good security team and they're monitoring our network constantly with our public IPs and making sure all of our systems are safe and secure. That's know your assets, know your most valuable assets out there. If you have particular servers that are mission critical, make sure you have warranties on those. Make sure you have spare equipment that you can rip and replace quickly. Just knowing your assets and knowing what you have is one of the most critical roles in my position.
Sure. Yeah. Brian, Liz, any thoughts?
Knowing your assets, I think, what are your crown jewels? What do you need to protect first and foremost? It's about the data. So when you're looking at what your asset inventory is, don't forget that data is your most important asset.
One thing is, ingrained me early in my career is know your business, right? If you don't know where your assets are, how can you protect them? If you don't know where your data lives. So that's, to me, that's step one, right? Knowing what you have, where it is, and what's on it.
Right on. So what are Liz, this will be for you, what are what's the low-hanging fruit for threat actors that they go after? Is it the assets You know, is it, you know, those, you know, devices that are aging, you know, that are, you know, that are, you know, going to be replaced, or what would that be?
Well, in the cybersecurity world, the saying goes, anything that can be attacked will be attacked, and probably already has been. We did a webinar late last year and had an FBI specialist in cybercrime participate. And he said the dental industry is like low-hanging fruit because the late adoption to cloud, the lack of IT support and maintenance and operations, and ransomwares are kind of rampant in the dental industry because we still have the single office dental practice where the server is on Windows 7 under the office manager's desk, right? If your business can be stopped. We had a client, a large DSO, who had a ransomware attack earlier this year, or no, it was late last year. Our Denticon system was not impacted, but their business had to shut between Thanksgiving and Christmas because of a ransomware attack, because all of their patient records were scanned documents that were stored on a file server. So when we talk low-hanging fruit, they are going after, first and foremost, file servers, storage accounts, file unstructured data. They are not going after a SQL Server database because there are more controls around that. They are going after your data stores. And if you are not encrypting it, if you are not monitoring it, and if you are not using multi-factor authentication and other controls around it, then you know it's going to be attacked at some point.
Sure. Yeah. Robert, what are some training programs and resources? You know, when we look at that NIST framework, what are some ways to help, you know, shore up and kind of help prevent some of these?
Yeah, that's one of the most critical pieces, I believe, that any company can have a security awareness training program. You talk about the low-hanging fruit. A lot of it, they're going after users that like to click on links, that think they just, you know, want an iPad or something like that, or there's a gift card, and they're like, oh yeah, I've been waiting for this. So they click on that link, takes them somewhere. I mean, multi-factor is not even 100% foolproof. They're kind of changing the way they do it, because now they can go behind the scenes and send to a site and read that data and read that authentication attempt and get in that way. But yeah, so security awareness training, every company needs to have a program, a written program that every new hire goes through, and then you need to have yearly trainings as well for your entire staff. Second to that, phishing simulations, they're very valuable. Most of your security solutions, such we use Mimecast for email security, they have that built in with it where you can send out phishing simulations. Office 365 does as well, if you pay for additional fees for it. That you can do that just to mimic the real world. And then also as part of those simulations is the users that fall for it, they get trained again through your security awareness training program. So that's, you know, our users are the first line of defense, and that's what they're going to go after. And, you know, majority of these recent ransomware attacks were because user clicked only, let somebody in, scan the network. They didn't have, you know, the proper cybersecurity in place in their network, and then it was just doomsday, and that's it.
Right. What are you guys doing on your end?
Everything he said, right? I really like phishing simulation. That's how most attacks start. I mean, there are sophisticated computer science attacks. That's not how most attacks are being successful, right?
Sure.
We do phishing simulation, education. I've had some, like I had Dennis like click 4 links in a row, right? And go through the training, and I have to show up, right? Like, this is really important, right? And so a few users, right, like, oh, the VP is driving halfway across the state to talk to you about security. You know, maybe it's important, but I mean, everything he said, right? You got to have the simulation, the training, because your users are where you're going to get attacked.
But there are two things that you can do to help minimize the fact that people click. So if you allow email on a mobile device, like most of us do these days, do not use the native mobile client. If you're using Outlook, use the Outlook client, because that way you can flag, this is coming from outside the organization. This is not an HR email. And people get annoyed by it, but the difference in click rates is huge. The second thing is IP whitelist your locations. Like, if people are only supposed to be doing work from that location, you know, you can make sure that the traffic is coming from there. So those are two things that we recommend that you do in order to avoid the clicking proclivity, like Amanda.
I'll add one more thing to that, yeah, all true. Role-based training, I think, is very important.
Yeah.
You think about your payroll team, your HR team, you know, they're gonna get the majority of these phishing attempts to where, you know, somebody changing their payroll information. I see that 15 times a day of
Yeah.
attempts with, you know, somebody spoofing an email and trying to do that. So train your users based on the role. You know, payroll, they're gonna get all kinds of attempts to change information like that. HR, I mean, these attempts are getting so much more advanced, especially with the advent of AI. I mean, we had a tabletop exercise, and our cybersecurity firm told us an instance where a CEO at a company, he had so many online videos of himself speaking that somebody was able to replicate that and get on a Teams call. They phish somebody's account, get on a Teams call, act as him, and ask them to transfer money to a specific account. And I want to say it's like $300,000-$400,000, and it actually happened. They told us this happened, they transferred it, and they actually thought it was him.
Wow.
Because it sounded like him, responded like him, so it's getting a lot more sophisticated.
Wow, you know, I recently, yeah, Joe.
Good question.
Yeah.
So I know you guys are representing these very large organizations, but, you know, even for my very small team of, 5 or 6 people, are there versions of this that are small and free? Like, I've been Googling like free phishing training and I found one thing, but is there anywhere that I should be looking, or that's not super expensive, that I can kind of do some of these things? And maybe some that you guys know about that stuff too.
You can always roll your own, you know. You can create lots of Gmail accounts, which is where most of the scams actually originate from, a Gmail account. And just craft a message. I will tell you that our click rates we're like best in industry for our secure culture, except when an email comes related to payroll, holidays, time off, or performance management. So it's something that is personal to people. It's not the iPads, nobody's clicking on those, but it's like, here's your time off, change to the policy.
Yeah.
And everybody clicks on it, like 33%. So I think it's about what is the message that you're sending, and trying to give people the tools to look. This is not coming from the people team at Planet DDS. This is coming from an external email. It's flagged as that, and look before you click.
And I will say, look at your, like, Office 365 for companies that don't have very many users. A lot of that stuff you can actually use. And a lot of people don't realize that they think they have to pay for it. But there's a piece of that you can use. Know-before is another one. That's a big company. That's going to be expensive. Yeah, Arctic Wolf. There's, check and see what you have to your current environment to see if it's available for you to use.
Cohesity offers a free one, I think, for under 100 users.
I'm sorry, who was it?
Cohesity, COHESTIY. There's another one I'll get the name of that we've looked at for smaller, groups. I cited Defender, right? If you're a Microsoft shop, it's like $4 a month per user to add, and you get everything that we're using on our level, right? Probably need a little, got to work maybe with someone technical to get it set up, but $4 a user a month, and you get all that email security.
Yeah, we can help with that, Jill.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Does that help?
Yeah.
Awesome. So I heard a crazy story phishing simulation of someone that was in charge in putting together to send out to a group in their organization, and he put it together, but it ended up in Russian, and he's like, "Oh, I'll just send it out anyway," and then just like, whoops, and still the email that went out to the group in Russian, and you still had over a dozen people clicking on it and adding in their credentials like WTF, like what the food? Anyway, so my question, the reason why I bring this up, how do you have those conversations? Like you said, you drive out there. Like, talk to us on how you have those conversations with those individuals that I
think it depends on the role, as we talked about earlier. I mean, for dentists, right, they generally care about their patients, right? And, for that conversation, you go into, like, what if their data gets leaked? Like, what does that do, A, to your reputation, to how you took care of that patient? Like, can you really look your patient in the eye and say you took care of them if you're the reason their data is being exploited, right? For that resonated with the dentist, right? For like the AP department and RCM, it's more like none of us are going to get paid if we lock this place down, right? And so really it's finding out what's important to them. For clinicians, you hammer right on the patient care, our responsibility to them, how much we care for them, and our ethical responsibility, and then really just role-based and go at what's important to them.
Okay. Thank you. Brian, going to you again, MFA. How can MFA be effectively implemented in DSOs, and how are you doing that?
Yeah. So I hope everyone understands the importance of that. Like, if not, get there, right? NIST requires it. Your cyber policy, if you have one, is going to require it, right? You just have to have it. If it's important, it probably needs MFA. If you are a traditional, and I don't know that I've ever seen an infrastructure that you cannot implement. Right? If you're a Microsoft shop, either on-prem directories, you're hybrid, you're full cloud, Google, AWS, they all support MFA. You can get your email and your critical stuff behind. You can probably do it by end of day from a technical perspective, right? One concern that I've always had in my career, yes, MFA is great, but if you give a user a lot of different MFAs they have to use, they're going to rebel against that first. I would say second, MFA fatigue, right? Uber was breached a couple years ago because the vendor had so many MFAs, they approved one that wasn't theirs, right? It came in for them, they thought it was theirs, clicked it, vendor gets in, and so I really think the magic bullet for DSOs is single sign-on. If you don't use Microsoft or Google, there's tons of companies. One login Okta, a lot of companies do it. And I don't know that I've seen a software that doesn't support some type of single sign-on. If you have software that all it does is IP lock, you can use that and use these programs and force them over to one login, and then they have to log in there. And so my career has been on the implementation side, on technology. I think it's really, if you can come to a solution that is secure and more convenient, like that's the golden goose, right? No one thinks security is convenient. But if I can go to a dentist and say, you don't have to remember 17 logins and 2 passwords because they're reusing their passwords, right? Like, all you have to remember is your name and how you can, and to use your cell phone, right? In our states, we're in the Southeast, labor laws allow for us to ask users to use their cell phone to download like an authenticator app. Like California, Illinois, and Vermont, I think, check with your lawyer, right? We don't require them to use their cell phone. We've got 1,200 users. I've had maybe 5 that have not, so that won't do it. And then there's other devices, YubiKey or tokens, right? Ways around that. But in general, if you can make their life easier, they're happy to whip out their cell phone download an authenticator app and, hey, this is the only thing I've got to do all day. Users, I think, will fall in line.
And so let's be clear, the Change Healthcare ransomware attack was because a system admin who had access to back-end infrastructure and data, they did not have MFA turned on. I mean, so one of the things that you want to be really clear is that your cloud hosting environment has really strong security environment over the infrastructure, and inquire, ask for that evidence and make sure that you're being clear that they are applying the best practices there. In terms of the ransomware attack that one of our clients had that shut down their practices for 6 weeks last year, it was the number 2 person in the DSO who had the highest level of permissions. They did have time of day restrictions on when people could access systems, but this person was one of the 2 people who could actually access systems after hours. And they didn't have any MFA on their network login to their file server. And so I think if you're applying, enough controls at every layer, it's got to include that MFA to all your access to your data, front end or back end.
So in the realm of responding to an incident, Liz, how can the NIST framework guide that recovery process?
Well, I think we've heard about it a couple times over the last couple of days, but you've got to practice it. You don't want the first time that you're trying to figure out whether or not you pay a ransom to be when somebody is demanding it. And I would say that as a CTO, CIO, CISO, your goal should be to never have to pay a ransom. Like, that's my measure of success. We will never have to pay a ransom. Ransomware attacks can happen. People click, things happen. But if you are prepared and you know how you're going to respond, you will never have to pay a ransom. By the way, if you pay a ransom, chances are they're coming back and asking for more.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
FBI confirms that. And even Change, they came in one way, but they've already staged 4 other ways to get access to your data. And if you haven't already closed every avenue, which you didn't know about in the first place, they're coming back.
Robert, during an incident, how important is communication? And who should be involved? And I know, some of the dry runs and rehearsals, that we talked about, but just kind of walk us through on, who should be involved in that?
Yeah, need to have your key players identified. You need to have a incident response plan with it detailed and lined out how it's going to go, who contacts who, because you're going to have to contact your cyber insurance firm, you're going to have to contact your law firm. There's a lot that goes into that, and you need to pick out a team, and communication is the clearest part. So we didn't have a cyber incident. We were part, we have CrowdStrike, so we dealt with that a month or so ago, and because we had all that in place, now we weren't having to contact, a cyber team or insurance firm, but my team, they had designated roles and responsibilities. So we were able to jump on it quickly, get instructions out, send it out to the staff. Communication is key. You got to let your field staff know, because they're just sitting there in limbo. They see on the news like, oh, is this, and they get to work and they're like, oh my God, half my computers are down. So very key. We do tabletops every year. So tabletop exercise is basically you're going through a cyber incident, a simulation of it, and you usually get like an accredited. We have our cyber insurance firm. They have people that will run the simulation for us. It's usually like 3 to 4 hours, but you get everybody that's in your incident response plan, all the key contacts, and what they do is you get in a boardroom, you go through it, and everybody knows their role. And it's like, what if this happens? What if that happens? What if this happens? Because you in your minds, being part of the IT team, you kind of understand what has to be done, but it's those other departments that they may just be like, oh, they're like looking for me, for guidance for everything. I'm like, no, you have your own roles and responsibilities, handle those, because my main role is recovery, getting us back online as quickly as possible.
Yeah, because Robert, like, if you try to do everything, that's just gonna.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't survive it at all.
Brian?
Completely agree. We were also affected by CrowdStrike, did about half our computers. When I realized we didn't have good backups, like I was off. And so like my director had to fill in, but like our IR plan didn't have any, right? And so like, oh, hey, we need, like, who is your backup? And I don't want to find out the day I need it, who the backup is, right? Like I'm gonna go, okay, I call you, you're not here, I call him. And so, took a little bit longer than it should have for us to recover, and we did pretty quickly, but you gotta have backups too, right, of your key contacts. Like we already have backups on the, the data backups, but if you're not around, who is your backup? And do they understand they're your backup? And do they know what to do, right? And so, I did that IR plan almost immediately after the, event to make sure everyone knew their role.
I'll say our incident response plan, before you get to the table of contents and the 20-page document and then the playbook attachments, actually has a checklist. Because when you're in the middle of an incident, you don't want to have to read through a long document, but here's very quick your checklist. This is what we're going to do. And that way, in the middle of a frenzy, you actually can start to work right away and not have to read through a long document. It's good for training too, of this is how we're going through it. But we also do, every time we have an incident that could be something bad, but actually isn't, we actually pretend it's like something bad and we write up the playbook for it. So this was not a malware outbreak. It was, something that was not malicious, but what if it were and it started to infect these resources? How are we going to contain it and eradicate it and then restore services? So we continually expand on our playbook for how we're going to do it, not what like Microsoft says or not what somebody else says you should do, but how does it play out for our team, our resources, our assets, and our data?
Yeah. Question for all of you guys. In relation to smaller dental organizations, in groups, without dedicated IT staff, effectively managing their cybersecurity needs, like what should they be? What are some suggestions, some thoughts on that?
I think if you're smaller, don't do it yourself. You're not going to have the resources or the expertise to do it, right? You're being attacked by people who are more well-funded probably in your whole company, right? And so find a partner, right? There's plenty of them out there that can help. There are, you can't afford to watch your network 24 hours a day. You can relatively cheaply pay someone to do that for you, right? And there's tons of companies out there that offer that service. So, if you're not an expert in security, understand that that's your limitation and find someone you can partner with that is.
Hey, every day, every business is a tech company these days. You have to acknowledge it. You wouldn't run your business without appropriately skilled finance people who do your accounting, who pay your taxes, who file all your paperwork. The reality of the cost of doing business is that you need people who understand technology and can help you manage technology risk as well as manage financial risk or other risks.
Yeah, I agree. Reach out to Sunset, obviously. They can help. But yeah, finding a key vendor that has a specialty in cyber defense that will come to you and they'll give you a cyber flash assessment. Do you have this? Do you have this? Do you have this? Give you a score based on it, and then give you goals and timeframes to get those securities in place. That's very key. Prioritize it for you. Okay, level 1, handle this, most critical. These are lower, medium level, but we'll give you a list and really help you build out your cyber defense. Couldn't recommend that more to the smaller DSOs because, we don't do a lot of acquisitions, we're mostly de novo model, but when we do, and we go look at some of these, 3, 4, 8, 9, 10 office setups, every computer has the same username, the same password. There's no screen locks. I mean, they're just sitting ducks basically. So absolutely do that. I would reach out, engage it, and get yourself fortified.
Some scary stuff up there, for
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
What emerging security, talking about scary stuff, what emerging cybersecurity threats should DSOs be aware of? Present and future.
Yeah, so one we're seeing, and I think is clever, is fake emails telling me we've been attacked, right? Hey, your account's been compromised, here's the IP address, click here, right? Which is kind of the, right? And so, gone are the days of bad grammar, right, in emails and misspellings, right? That used to be what you trained your users on. Look for misspellings, look for bad grammar. Robots don't have bad grammar and they don't misspell things, right? And so, the level of sophistication in the phishing emails, it's going to sound like your CEO because the robot can do it, right? So, that's one, right? It's not look for errors in the email, it's other things, like email address. So, the sophistication of the attacks on users has never been better.
In terms of the indicators of compromise, so it often starts with a phishing attack and account takeover. But if you're looking at a ransomware attack on your file server, your scanned images, documents, the number one thing that you can monitor is file renaming. And if you are seeing file renaming happening at a really fast rate, then you know that you have a ransomware attack in progress. And so trying to look at, it's hard to do the account takeover, and clicking on a link, anomalous behavior detection can help. Like, this user is logging in from Russia, okay. But what if, somebody is traveling all around the world, they're, a nomad and they're, doing stuff, it's harder to track that. So IP whitelisting, but monitoring your files is one of the easiest ways to prevent a ransomware attack or to catch it while it's happening. And have a monitor and alarm going off saying this is happening and we need to do something now.
Yeah, with that, I would say definitely go and create rules in your email environment for if somebody's account gets phished. One of the first things you're going to do is set up a rule to, send to this folder or that folder. And so if you have notifications set up, anytime a user creates a rule, you'll now be able to look at that account. But in terms of some of the things that are coming AI, obviously, we use AI to protect through CrowdStrike. They have different AI looking for abnormal behaviors, monitoring the network that way. You can use it to defend, but also it's some scary stuff in terms of thinking about the ways that it can possibly infiltrate a network in the future. I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist at all, but it just scares me thinking about, the ancient architecture of some of our most critical infrastructures, such as electric grid and things of that nature. So it's concerning when you think about, somebody gets their hands on, a bad actor gets their hands on some advanced AI and is able to build out the system that can infiltrate a network and then go in there and just, wreak havoc. It's scary stuff. So many good things with AI, but there's also scary things as well.
I think bottom line is have an IR plan in place, continue to run through those scenarios and tabletop exercises, and continue doing penetration testing. And I think we heard that comment yesterday that those testings probably will be going on more than just biannually or annually.
Yes.
Every
Every
day.
day.
At daily, if not hourly. But any last thoughts before we wrap up?
I'd say back up religiously, right? If it's important, back it up often, air gap it, like
Yeah.
invest in backups, because you're paying a ransom if you don't have a backup, right? Like there's not really another direction to go, so back up religiously.
And multi-location redundancy for those backups. So
Yeah,
we
definitely.
didn't get hit with CrowdStrike, not a CrowdStrike customer, but the same day Microsoft's Azure central region went down. And it was kind of great that we had the ability to restore our services very quickly, given that, and not everybody has invested in that.
I'll say be diligent. Don't believe in coincidences. Take everything seriously. If it might be a threat, treat it as a threat. And, people that have gone through incidents before, and I've been through one before, it wasn't ransomware, but it was similar. Before that, IT was a different world. It's like things would happen, you'd be like, oh, that's not that big a deal, several years ago. But after that, and going through it, it's, everything scares me, basically. So it's like a fear monger. But pay attention, be diligent, and like no coincidences. Look into everything, make sure you're secured in many different ways, not just one solution, multiple solutions. So that's the advice I'd give.
Robert?
Build out your playbook.
Yeah, come on now, expand it, right? Rehearse it and do it. Robert, Liz, Brian, thank you so much. We appreciate your time, your knowledge, expertise. Give it up.